for men who refuse to stay complacent. Welcome to the Upgraded Man podcast with your host, Chris Anderson.
Welcome back to the Upgraded Man podcast. I'm Chris Anderson, your host. I am far from perfect. I'm on this journey with you of becoming an upgraded man. It's a journey, not a destination, and we're in this together. So super excited to have a conversation today about motivation and how really not important it is necessarily. So our guest has broken multiple world records, accomplished great deals, great feats, and at a very, seasoned age. He's had some experience, some years behind his belt. So super excited for our chat today to talk through all this. Jeff Seckendorf, I hope I said that right. Welcome to the podcast.
You did? Thanks, Chris. Amazing to be here. I'm really grateful. Yeah. I took a challenge, right? To get our schedules lined up, but we finally got this organized.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm super excited for it. So for those of you who aren't watching, Jeff, he's got some medals. He's got some accolades behind him. And you'll notice he's got a little bit of wisdom crowning his dome there. So he's got some years on us. Jeff, I want to just dive right into it, right? How old are you, for one? And how old were you when you accomplished these world records you did?
So I've been calling it Jeff version 7.1.
Okay.
And so I started doing all this in my 60s, and the series of ultra distance records I did on the bike, I was 70. I did them last year.
So you did 4 in 1 day? Is that correct? You broke 4 records in one day?
Yeah. The way the World Ultra Cycling Association does it, they're nested. So You do one ride and you tick off the shorter ones first, and then you finish with the longer. So I did 100 kilometers. This is on a velodrome, just going around laps in circles. So 100 kilometers went first, 100 miles went second, 200 kilometers went fourth, 6 hours went third. So the whole thing, the 200 kilometers took like 6 hours and 10 minutes or something. So I accomplished all 4 of those.
The world record was for your age group, right? Was the distance you covered in the short amount of time. So yeah, these records, these are based on your age group and their, distance and time connection, right?
Yeah, correct. So they age up every 5 years, the records, and off we go. It was just a crazy experience. It started because I had set an hour record at the San Diego Velodrome, and an hour is probably the hardest thing you can do in cycling. It's not a sprint, it's not an endurance ride. It's just, so you're just locked up for like a minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've got everything's good on ours. Our bandwidth says everything's good.
Yeah, mine too. I don't see any issues here. I got full wireless bars.
Yeah, that's super strange. Let me see if I can't check.
Let me change one thing in the house, but I'll be right there.
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
I'll run speed test. We're getting good. Download.
I'm gonna pause where they added.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
so where were we?
The short distance. You talked about it started with the. You could just start back with like, hey, it started with the short. It wasn't a sprint or a long distance one. So
yeah. So this whole thing started with I was racing on the track, but I was looking for longer events to do. So there's a thing called the hour record in cycling. It's probably the hardest thing you can do on a bike. It's not a sprint. It's not an endurance ride. It's like as hard as you can go for an hour, and it's kind of iconic, right? It's been going on in cycling since the 1800s. How far can you go in an hour? And so I had this idea that I should go after that. And I worked on it for about 4 or 5 years, and I eventually established an hour record at the San Diego Velodrome, local record. I was looking for an international or national record. And I just kept working and working, and the goalposts kept moving because, I'm aging up, but so are a huge number of ex-professional cyclists also aging up. So, when I started this, it was like 42 kilometers, the distance, and then it was 43 and 44, and now it's like 45 kilometers. So it was kind of getting out of reach for my normal mortal body. And I thought, I got to try something that I can actually be successful at. We had a guy come to our local track, and he set these 4 same records in the elite category. And I'm like, what is World Ultracycling Association? So I'm like checking it out, and it's the governing body for long distance bike records. And I looked at these 4 records that he did in my age group, 7.0. And I thought I could kill those. And so I set it up. I trained for only like 2 or 3 months for this, got the whole machine together, got it all organized, started a fundraiser. We raised about 15 grand for the local Parkinson's community here. Okay. I don't have Parkinson's, but I'm involved in that community as a worker. And and I crushed these 4 records. There you go. Who knew?
That's crazy. And so most people my age, and your age, really are just kind of sitting around, right? Just hoping things will get. So like, what changed, or what's different in you that made you want to go and accomplish these feats versus, just being comfortable at home?
Our joke is that you can just stay in and watch reruns of Gilligan's Island all day.
Yeah.
Because, who doesn't want to watch the professor make a radio out of a coconut?
100%.
It's a good question, and it's kind of a question I don't have an answer to. It's just kind of how I'm wired.
Yeah.
Right. I am tenacious about stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I get on projects, and I like to see them to completion. And, in this case, it's kind of my body as a project. I went a year or 2 ago to my 50th high school reunion, right? Maybe 2 years ago. And, it's so interesting because I have a very, very fit high school class.
Okay.
I'm looking around at people who are like, still climbing mountains.
Oh, wow.
They're skiing, they're active. And so I think part of it was just I was brought up to be careful with my body and, try to keep it functioning at the highest possible level. And, I coach athletes.
Yeah.
So part of it is walk the talk.
Oh, 100%. And so on top of the cycling, you've done some other things, right? You've done some other wild adventures that are physically demanding. Is that correct?
I was a competition aerobatic pilot for many years.
A little bit of G-forces there.
A little on the G's. And again, that was a place where, there were 2 kinds of people competing in that.
Sure.
And it has a lifespan because it's a money hole. I mean, it is like you need a bulldozer to shovel the money in the hole that it takes to do that sport. But there are people who just go and fly and sit on the couch. And there are people who compete as a sport and stay fit and stay strong and eat carefully. And of course, that was me. And so I was a pretty good aerobatic pilot, but I was a really good athlete in that world. So I was able to be competitive, probably beyond my skill set, because my body and mind, I just kind of kept it under control.
Yeah.
I think it's really just having a little tenacity and, having a desire to try something a little crazy and not sitting still for aging, particularly because that's the worst of it.
Yeah, because that's like we kind of talk about, like, if we're not growing, we're dying, right? If we're not improving, if we're not trying to get better, you're just going to whittle away. So as an aerobatic pilot, or acrobatic pilot, what does that entail? Because people think, you go sit in the plane, you maneuver it a little bit. What does that actually do to your body that you have to be, physically in shape for?
It's kind of like climbing a little bit, that sport, except the event, the competition event is like 4 minutes, not potentially 4 hours.
Right.
But there are G forces you take, both positive and negative. The thing that hurt most people in that sport was the heat. Okay. We're out in the summer, we're at airports, there's no shade, it's 90 degrees, and you get cooked. So
Yeah.
again, nutrition and hydration become really important. I took that from my cross-country skiing and cycling background, brought all of that training and physicality to this sport. And I think it kept me sort of ahead of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever have any like scary moments while you're up there flying?
You know, what's this thing? There's old pilots and bold pilots, but no old, bold pilots.
Yeah.
So, yeah, things break,
Sure.
stuff breaks, but it's just like, whatever. I mean, it's, I don't have those big stories, right? There I was, flat on my back, jigging and jagging, bogeys everywhere. That's not me. I was careful,
Sure.
meticulous, doing it as an athlete.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, I have stories, but they're not that interesting.
Okay.
Which is a good thing. When you're flying, that's a good thing.
Good. That is a good thing.
That's what you want.
So you mentioned during that, talking about being a pilot, you talked about cross-country skiing background. What else have you done, Jeff? Like I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, I've ran marathons, I play soccer, I lift, and I'm like, okay,
there you go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. It's all been very organic, right? Okay. And I think this is the thing, right? You start where you are. So somebody introduced me to bikes when I was a kid. Before that, somebody introduced me to cross-country skis. This is back when there were wood skis, and this is going to sound like I'm really, really old, but, putting tar on the base and burning it in with a blowtorch and waxing the skis. So I learned to ski when I was super young, 17, 18, and got competitive on skis at a young age and did pretty well. And then from there, I was living in the Northeast. The ski season was like 2.5 months long. So the other 10 months a year, we'd be on the bike to train for it. And then I did the math. It's like, wait a minute, I have a 2.5 month season or a 10-month season. And so the bike kind of took over at that point. And then it just moved itself forward, right? I started doing some long rides. I moved to California. I started doing some triathlons just to change it up because San Diego is kind of the center of the universe for triathlon.
Yeah.
And then on my 60th birthday, I decided to quit running. Okay. And I think this is another important sort of part of my story is functionally being able to quit something at all, whatever it is. And, quit has such a negative connotation. There's an amazing book. I don't know if you've run into it, Chris, by a woman named Annie Duke, who wrote a book called Quit.
Interesting.
She was for many years a world tour poker player. So
wow.
If you watched any of that world tour poker stuff on some obscure cable network, you've seen her win.
Okay.
And she has a PhD in I don't know, psychological quitting. I don't know what it is. It's amazing. But she wrote this book on quitting and framed quitting as one of the most positive things you can do. Huh. And it talked a lot about the sunk cost effect. She talked a lot about in poker, you don't quit while you're ahead, you quit while you're losing. Thought that was a really interesting twist on it.
Yeah.
So I've been looking really carefully at quitting, and I've kind of reframed it for me as pivoting.
Yes, I like that.
And so what do you do when it's time to quit something?
Yeah.
So when I turned 60 and I was doing triathlons and I was not injured, I was running really well, doing great. And I'm looking around at all my friends who are aging up, who still run. This one's got a hip, this one's got a knee, this one's got an Achilles, this one's got a hole in their socks. I don't know, whatever. And I'm like, this would be a really good time to stop running.
Yeah.
So I just did. I just quit. And I haven't run a step in 11 years. Okay. But at that point, somebody took me to the velodrome in San Diego. And I'm looking at these guys racing a bike, right? They're sitting around the infield. They're telling stories. They're telling jokes. They're laughing. They're having fun. And then the race comes up and they go ride their bike really fast for 7 minutes. And then they get back down and they're telling stories and having fun. And I'm like, that's my sport. And that's where the whole track thing started. It was just a very simple pivot from not wanting to run, which led for looking for something, which led to another thing, which turned out to be, the center of my life right now. So now I'm racing on the track. I'm doing these ultra events. I'm coaching track racers.
That's
cool. But it's organic. It's not like I planned it. It just sort of happened.
Yeah. Do
So,
you think you'd ever pivot into something that's not fitness or physically demanding at all?
well, I've tried lots of them. Yeah.
Okay.
So I tried learning Spanish. This was a thing, right? So,
Uh-huh.
I had a project I was working on for many years where I was working with a lot of people in Spain and Mexico.
Okay.
My wife grew up in Argentina. She's natively fluent in Spanish. I don't speak a word. And I figured I've got to learn this language, right? It's not fair that I'm having to make all these other people speak English. So I get the tapes and I get the thing and I commit and I'm half an hour a day and I'm talking to myself. And it turns out I don't appear to have an aptitude for this. So after about 4 or 5 months of this hell, I was like, screw it. They're going to have to talk to me in English.
Yeah.
And
Or
I
just
quit.
use Google Translate now.
Or you could do that. That's easy. But
Yeah.
I just quit. And it was like this blanket came off. It's like I'm not any longer committed to this thing that I'm not enjoying.
Yeah.
And I just, the sunk cost effect was I had whatever money in it, not much, hundreds of dollars, but, subscriptions and tapes and whatever. Well, there are no tapes anymore, but the equivalent. And I just quit.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And it got me back like all this time to do something else. So yeah, I think watching for a pivot and being receptive to say yes to what pops along is really the key to it. Rather than force yourself into something you'd hate, you just, and there is that thing about if you do what you love, the money will come. And everybody thinks that's total bullshit until you actually demonstrate that it's true.
Yeah. What do you think that is? That, the money comes when you start doing stuff you love.
Oh, I think it just opens up the bandwidth in your life to be receptive to anything, right?
Yeah.
We have a friend who was on Match.com for 3 years, and she was having just no luck at all.
Yeah.
And this is not an exaggeration. I can't make this up. It's too weird. She went on Match.com to quit it and close the account, and there was one message there. Like the last day, the last hour, where she completely let go of this project, right? I'm just done. I'm just going to release it. And she's been with that guy for, I don't know, a year now, and they're going strong.
That's awesome.
It's just, you have to be receptive. If you put up a barrier, either a mental, physical, or emotional barrier, nothing comes through. And if nothing comes through, well, then of course nothing's going to work. And that's why if you do what you love, the money will follow. Because if you're doing something you love, your barriers are down, your blockers are gone. Now, this doesn't mean be reckless.
Sure. Right.
Right. I mean, every time I try to do a pivot like that and I want to change something that has to do with money, I want to make sure I have a safety net.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, it's irresponsible to just quit.
Yeah.
It's not irresponsible to pivot.
So why do people have so much trouble doing that? Pivoting from something they hate or something they don't enjoy to actually pivoting to something they would enjoy. Why is there such a gap or disconnect there to be able to do that?
I'm looking at the tagline on the screen as a recording for men who refuse to be complacent. And I think that's your answer. I think that complacency is, it's a buzzkill, basically. Yeah. It's like, I have a shitty job. I'm just going to do it because that's all I got. And I can come home at 5 o'clock and have the rest of my life. But, if you're working 40 hours a week, 200 hours a month, whatever that is, 1,200 hours a year, why do you want to be miserable?
Right.
I'm finishing up a book, and there's a thing that writers say that people say about writers that, writers hate writing. They just love having written.
Yeah.
Right. They love the book.
Yep.
Like, okay, here's my book. It's cool. But they hate the process. So if you hate the process, what's the point of spending 1,000 hours doing something you hate for the 30-second enjoyment of getting it published, which is not hard anymore. You just self-publish. Yep. So, I think it's a lot of that. I think it's a lot of, you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be able to be tenacious. And none of that comes from anything outside of you. You just have to build up a little bit of heart and start slowly. I mean, if this is like, it sounds like this is a horrible challenge, start slowly. Learn to cook. I don't know. Learn to grill. You know, we just moved to a house that has induction cooking top.
Yeah.
We have no idea how to cook anymore after like 70 years of gas.
Oh, yeah.
So now, you know, you could look at that as everything's sticking to the pans and I hate it. Or, you know, we were talking about it last night. It's like, all right, let's find a class. Let's get someone to teach us how to use these things.
There you go.
And put a positive spin on it and make it a pivot, not your hell from, you know, cooking on gas to cooking on electric. Let's go make that positive.
Yeah.
And it's a tiny, ridiculous example, but it plays to everything, right?
But it's perspective of it, of the challenge ahead of you. And, you know, people would look at what you've done at your age, 70s, 60s, 70s, and say, you know, this is extraordinary, Jeff. You're just way different. But you think you said it where people who do extraordinary things, they usually aren't the most talented. So if it's not talent or motivation, what is it that people like you have? I know you mentioned tenacity earlier, but if people want to pivot and overcome things and do great things, what is that they're maybe not tapping into?
So I think if you look at a goal, right? Yeah. Let's choose a goal. To me, goals have to be 50% believable.
Okay. Yeah.
If a goal is more than 50% believable, it's like a to-do list. And if it's less than 50% believable, it's like a pipe dream.
Right.
So let's put a goal at 50%. So if I set a goal of riding a 100-mile bike ride, that's a to-do list, right? I could knock that out this afternoon.
Yeah.
For some people, that's a 3-year training program.
Right.
So where do you set your goals in a way that you can manage them without making it a to-do list or making it a pipe dream? So I think if you want to start changing your life, changing something, find something that is a goal. And it could be learning to cook on an induction stovetop. I don't know, whatever it is, something that's manageable, you don't know how to do, and learn how to do it and be good at it.
Yeah.
There's this whole concept of path to mastery, right? Where I actually run a workshop on this, but a path to mastery starts with discovery. It moves to training, it moves to practice, and then it masters at teaching or coaching.
Yep.
So what we do in the workshop is, now it sounds like I'm selling something, but I'm not. You know, call before midnight. We'll throw in steak knives. What we do in the workshop is say, well, okay, let's come up with something that you want to try.
Yep.
100-mile bike ride, whatever it is. Now, let's find something that you've done in your life that you're really good at. What is it that you're teaching or coaching or guiding people for? And then how did you get there? Back up from that. Okay, I'm teaching people how to garden. All right, back up to practice, back up to training, back up to discovery where you found out you liked your fingers in the dirt, whatever it is. And look at that process. That process was discovery, training, practice, teaching. Apply that to the new thing. All right. I mean, if it's cooking on an induction stove, it's all right. Discovery. I've got this stupid thing in the house I just bought. I can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Training, I'm going to go find someone or something or some video or some school to teach me how to use this thing. And then I'm going to practice it. And if I want to get to a point where I've really mastered it, I'll show someone else how to do it.
Yep.
But I'm taking the process that I had with something else that I'm good at, cycling, flying, filmmaking, whatever it is, and applying it to something that I want to do to create this new goal and this new path to be good at something. Start with anything. I mean, start with, I don't know, you got a second grade kid at home, start with their math project, you know, but you have to start. And once you start doing these small steps, you can take that same process, discovery, training, practice, teaching, and apply it to things that are more and more and more complex, right? I think the most complex one in sport would be triathlon.
Yes.
You want to try something tricky? Go do a triathlon. You could do a sprint, right? You're at Starbucks by 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
But try it, right?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. That's what I've done, sprints. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's good enough for me. I will drown any farther distance.
That's what we call it. Don't what is it? Don't drown, crash, or fall.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because that's a big thing for me. I realized like I just didn't have the time that it was going to take to put into the training because of everything else. Like I wasn't going to be able to prioritize that. So I realized that, and it just wasn't. Maybe when I, in the future, when I'm a little older, when I have, the kids are older, things like that. And, but yeah, I think just starting. Why when people get into something, they're trying to get started. Maybe they're trying to learn to cook, or they're trying to learn Spanish, or, maybe they found something they really love, but they just don't stay motivated. And I know this is going to be a good one because I know you don't think about the motivation as important. So what is that? They're like, I'm just not motivated to do it. What is it really?
Okay, so a lot to unpack there.
Okay.
It starts with process versus outcome.
Uh-huh.
If we're talking about writers who hate to write but love having written, if you hate the process, you're not going to get a functional outcome. So if you start something that has a process that you don't enjoy, you might as well pivot before you get deep in.
So there's no way to shift and make themselves love the process.
Sure. Okay. Sure. You can just decide. And, small successes within that starting can drive you. But like the Spanish thing, I hated the process. I would have liked the outcome, but I hated the process. So I just quit and I found something else to do with my, 5 hours a week. So you just have to start, right? And you have to try it and you have to be willing to say, okay, that's not for me. We're all different, right? I mean, in sport, as an athlete, so much of success is related to your genes, right? I am never going to be, or was I ever going to be, a world tour athlete. I have the mindset. I have the tenacity. I sort of have the body, but I don't have the genetics.
Okay. So
I can go so far. What I did was find a way for me to be successful within the world of competition cycling in a field that fits my body, mind, and more importantly, genetics, right? I have a go-long body. I can go ride my bike hard for 6 hours. I just can't do it when it's surging, climbing, when somebody else is controlling the race.
Okay.
So you find what you like and do what you like, right? It's like, I mean, I've seen people who have a job, get promoted, hate it, go back to their old position, right? Because it was fun and they enjoyed it. And then all of a sudden they're supervising 12 people and it's like, well, that's not fun. You see it with doctors all the time. It's like, doctor becomes a chairman of a department and now has to like manage and supervise doctors. That's not a group of people that likes to be managed.
Right. Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you get a department chair who hates it. Same with academics, same with the professor at college that, hey, I'm going to become English department chair for 2 years. And then all of a sudden they hate their life. Can't wait to get back to teaching.
Right.
So that's okay.
So then with that, like, what's the difference for people listening, the difference between motivation and just discipline, just getting it done?
I think motivation is driven by doing something that you enjoy. I think if you enjoy it, you'll stay motivated. I love being on the bike. As soon as we're done, I'm going to grab my bike, get down to the track and go ride in circles for an hour or two. And I enjoy it. I mean, it's super fun for me. If it's something that I don't enjoy, I'm just not going to do it. And then why waste time forcing it? Yeah. The problem is some of those things that we don't enjoy are related to our financial well-being.
Sure.
So if you have a job you don't like, it's easy to think I'm just going to quit, but where's your safety net? Where's your responsibility as a human, as a parent, father, homeowner, mortgage owner?
Yeah.
Where does that responsibility play? And so it may take a little time to figure out the solution for making a change, but you can make the change. You just have to find the thing that you're going to change into that's going to be fun. And fun's the key, right?
Yeah.
If it's
What
not
is it?
fun, what's the point?
Do you think if people shift from having fun in something, like, so you love bike riding, you said, and you've
Yeah.
talked about if it gets to the point where you don't, you pivot to something else. Is there a time, or is it ever where maybe there's something in you that needs to change so you can love it again? Do you think there are factors that cause you not to love something that you used to, not because of the activity itself, but because of you as a person?
I went through a period a couple of years ago where I was getting overtrained.
Okay.
And nothing was fun. I wasn't getting to the end of workouts. I wasn't succeeding at events. I was tired. My body was changing. And it was just because I was doing too much.
Okay.
And I finally figured that out through a series of, conversations and events and just taking some time off. And it was like, oh, I didn't hate cycling. I hated how I felt from too much cycling.
Yeah.
Changed coaches, changed nutrition plans, changed hydration plan, changed, everything. And all of a sudden it was fun again. For me, it was learning how to eat better and eating properly, which is funny because I've been riding a bike for 50 years, but learning how to eat properly the last 2-3 years ago, got me to the end of workouts feeling good. And it's like, oh, well, I can knock that out now. And all of a sudden, one little adjustment made everything better.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think you just find a way. You find something inside of what you're doing that makes things feel like fun.
Yeah. And so you're loving bike riding, you're chasing these goals, you're, training, all this. Is there something that you have to sacrifice to be able to love this and do what you love?
That's another really, really good question because, where are the priorities?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a good answer for that one other than what's in me is that I carve out time. As we were talking before we recorded, I just moved, right? I'm surrounded. You can't tell 'cause I've got a fake background up, but I am surrounded by hell. When I look around, there's boxes, there's junk on the floor. I have no surfaces to put anything on. My desk is like heaps of stuff. It's just I have to get that worked out to get my world worked out, and then I can get back. But yeah, so this is just distracting to me, but I'm still going to go find an hour to ride my bike.
Yeah.
And I think again, it's just create your priorities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Decide what is important to you, and then figure out what's not negotiable. All right, I have a mortgage. I need an income. I cannot quit the job today, but I can start a 2-year process of trying to find something else to do that's funner.
Yeah.
And I can say, okay, it's going to take me 2 years, but maybe you should say it's going to take me a year, and it probably will, because what you say you tend to believe.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the key there. If it's time to make a pivot, plan it. Figure out your safety net, write it down, because writing gives it power.
Yep.
And figure out what you want to do. And if you don't know, just put a big question mark there. I want a new job. I don't like managing people or whatever it is you're doing, right? I want a new job.
Yeah.
Let's write down what you like about your job, what you don't like about your job, what you're good at, what you're, in coaching a bike, we don't say strengths and weaknesses. We talk about strengths and challenges. We capitalize on our strengths and we train our challenges.
Yeah.
So write down strengths and challenges of my job, strengths and challenges of some other job that would make me feel happier, and then figure out a path to that, whatever that is, and just make it realistic. Can you realistically become a book author? Well,
Yeah.
you could probably write the book. Can you market and sell it and make enough money to replace your $100,000,
Right.
mailman job or whatever you got,
Right.
So, there's a pile of reality in this whole thing that, it's funny. We were talking the other day about a marketing program for my coaching business. And, I've been involved in 1,000 of these, hire a marketing company, right?
Sure.
They look at your everybody does the same thing. Look at your website, make a PowerPoint, and tell you what to do.
Sure.
And it's like, well, thanks, but I'm not going to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, so you go to the next company and they're like, they look at your website, they make you a PowerPoint, and they tell you what to do. It's like, that's what the last guy did, and I didn't do that.
Right.
So now I need a marketing plan where someone's going to do it.
Yep.
Right. Or automate it or something. And that's what I ended up doing. I found somebody who helped me automate some of the marketing. And now it's kind of fun because it's kind of fun. It's like, you got to find ways to get around the fact that, you think you're not happy, or you think you're complacent, or, whatever that turns out to.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, guys say they want something different, right? They want, more income. They want to be in better shape. They want to learn something or do something, but they never take action in it. I think it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, is like that complacency piece, right? They're saying they want these things, but the pain they're having right now in the moment isn't enough to make them change. Do you see that a lot?
I think so. I think yes. I see it with people who come in to have a conversation with me about being a coached athlete,
Okay.
as opposed to doing whatever they're doing, an online program or an AI program or something like that. And of course, human coaching, any coaching program will make a cyclist faster. Doesn't matter if it's human or AI or whatever.
Sure.
Basically, only a human coach will make you better.
Okay.
You can get faster on an online system. Will you get better? Probably not. That's where human coaching takes over. And so, I think a lot of this is just finding the route to whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you're complacent, just decide if you're okay with that.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that might be a good thing, right?
Right.
We have grandkids. The reason we just moved is because now we're like a quarter of a mile from the grandkids.
Nice.
It's awesome. So they can ride their bikes here. We can ride our bikes there. The whole thing's super simple. We could have stayed in our other house, and we would have ended up in complacency about the grandkids. It was only a 25-minute drive. It wasn't a big deal. But, it felt complacent to stay when this other thing came up that was around the corner from these kids. So now all of a sudden we jumped and realized that we had gone, they're 8 and 10, right? We'd gone 10 years sort of complacent about living where we lived and seeing them rarely. Now, I can almost see their house just far enough away.
Yeah.
But it's cool. So that was a kick where it took us a while to find the right place. It took us a while to find a house and find the neighborhood and make the finances work. And, buying and selling houses in San Diego is ridiculous because there's an extra zero on every house now.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy stuff. So, I sort of lost track of your question, but I think it's like, how do you manage the complacency thing? And like I said, sometimes complacency is a good thing. It gives you the space and the room to do something else.
So do you see then with individuals you coach or athletes you work alongside a difference between them and people who are just average, who don't accomplish anything, who, just kind of work, go home, sit down, watch TV, get up and do it again? Is there something different in their DNA, their mindset, that just makes them different and accomplish more?
I think when clients come in, at least to my coaching program. They come in from a couple of different ways. One way is they're being unsuccessful in an event or in multiple events, and they're seeing coached athletes do better.
Okay.
It's like, well, I want that. It's like, oh, okay, so that is not hard. You just need guidance, right? So that's one way that people look at it and say, okay, well, yeah, let's just go do that.
Yeah.
And the other is just a general, wanting to be better at something, right?
Yeah.
And making sure they have the bandwidth. The first question I ask people when they come in is, well, two questions. How much time do you have to do this project? Because I don't want your money if you're only going to train 2 hours a week. And almost equally important, how much disposable money do you have for cycling in this case, or whatever we're talking about? Because if this is going to strap you, then we want to know about it up front. So as clients come in, once we get the time thing figured out, it's like, all right, we're going to be financially transparent. I don't care how much money you make or any of that stuff, but I want to know how much disposable income you have for cycling for the next, 30, 60, 90, 200 days. And then let's figure out the best way to spend that.
Sure.
And that way we know going up front that, I've had people come in and say, well, it's unlimited. Well, nothing's unlimited, but
Right.
I've also had people come in and say, after I pay for coaching, I've got $100 a month left over. It's like, okay, great. We can figure out how to spend that. In 6 months, you're going to buy a $600 power meter, whatever it is. I think if we just have to sort of plan the ways that get people better, that make people feel like they're in ownership of whatever they're doing. And, I don't think people are different in terms of whether they want to come into a coaching program or not. I think they're at different parts of their journey of becoming the best version of themselves. For somebody who wants to be the best version of themselves on a bike, coaching is a great way to do it. For someone who wants to just go out and do simple, fun rides with their buds and stuff like that, probably don't need this, right? Just depends on what your goal is, what what turns you on about whatever it is you're doing.
Gotcha. Well, Jeff, this has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed, diving into kind of the pivoting, the motivation, and how people can accomplish more with this episode. And I think, there's a lot there for people to unpack and kind of like think on in their own lives. And so, coming here to the close, what we do at the end of the Upgraded Man podcast is we have this journal. And each time we have a recording, a guest on the show, they leave something for the next guest to either answer or to think on and respond to. Excuse me. And so Tim Kelly was on last. He was our last guest, and he left this question. And so I'm going to read what he asked, and I'd love to get your response after you kind of think on it for a second. And then after you respond to his statement or his question, we'd love to take something from you for the next guest, whether that be a quote, a question, a story, whatever that might be. So here's Tim's response from episode 506. What conversation, decision, or commitment are you avoiding right now? That's his question.
Oh, I didn't see any of this coming, but I love this idea. What am I avoiding right now?
Yeah. Conversation, decision, or commitment you're avoiding right now.
I'm not really an avoidance guy. It sounds like a cop-out. But it's true. I tend to face things kind of head on. And I think that would be my response to it. It's like, avoidance is a killer, right? Because it leads to regret and discomfort in anything, and I think there's always, in a relationship, I've been married for a while, and, we're always like dancing around stuff, but we eventually get to a point where we can have a conversation, right? So I'm going to turn that around and say, if you're looking at avoiding a conversation, figure out a way to manage that. either, and of course, if it's in a relationship, you can never change somebody else. That just doesn't work. If you want to change a relationship, the only way to do it is change yourself.
Yeah.
So I think if you're avoiding something, change yourself, change your perspective. I was getting super frustrated on this house move the other day.
Uh-huh.
And, my wonderful wife left for some errand or something. And the last thing she said to me is, "You are taking all the fun out of this move."
No.
And I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice that. And now I'm like surrounded by boxes and I don't care. I mean, it was a big pivot for me to like, all right, I don't have to get this done in 4 hours. I'm just going to have fun.
Yeah.
I think in that situation, I was avoiding having fun because I was like working too hard to get it done.
I get that.
Yeah. So I think the answer to the question is make a change within yourself. Don't try to change someone else.
I love that. That's good. And so then kind of flipping it, what would you like to leave, comment, question, quote for the next guest who's on the show?
And we don't know who that is. Well, you know who it is, but I don't know who it is.
Right.
I would say, since we've been talking about quitting and pivoting, what was something that happened in your life that felt like quitting, but turned out to be a positive pivot?
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
I've been calling it pivot proudly.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, I love it. I'm excited to hear the answer to that question for the next guest.
I love this idea. I've never heard anybody doing this before. I just love this idea.
Yeah, I forget. Someone said there's another show that does something kind of like it, and I was like, well, shoot, I didn't know that when I came up with the idea. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think it's cool to kind of connect. And what we're going to actually do, the goal is once we get so many of these. Right now, I'm targeting possibly 100 episodes doing this, putting it in a physical Upgraded Man Journal Volume 1, where people can go and they can go to each one of these from episode, I think it started at episode 500, and read the quote, question or comment, and then answer their own response to it. I don't know. So we'll see how
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It sounds like a really cool interactive idea.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that one, and but yeah, so I appreciate you sharing that and leaving that for the next guest. I appreciate everything you shared during this episode, and it's just been amazing connecting with you and be able to hear your story and everything you've accomplished. So I'm excited for my future. As I continue to try to upgrade and do things, and give myself permission to pivot a little bit in some areas. And so this has been great, Jeff. If people do want to connect with you or just continue to learn or see your journey, where's the best place for them to do that? JeffScoaching.com. JeffScoaching.com. Yeah. And I'm happy to talk to anybody, about, fitness journey, or, I'm a personal trainer, coach, nutritional coach, all that kind of stuff. So, if you have questions or whatever, just feel free to hit me up. Awesome. Yeah. Everyone make sure you do that if you're interested. Jeff, again, thank you so much for being on the Upgraded Man podcast.
Chris, it's been great having this conversation with you. I'm grateful.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to this and you're not following the show yet, make sure you subscribe and follow the show. It just helps us continue to do this. It gives us the ammunition, the fuel to keep going. And then if you're listening and you know someone who's thinking about pivoting, they're thinking about trying something new, they're thinking about improving something in their life, share this with them so we can help more people together. But until next time, continue to go out there, upgrade your life, and we'll talk to you again soon.